Welcome. We're so glad you joined us for the September edition of Native Plants at Noon. My name's Tammy Thompson. I'm with Deep Roots. I'm a project coordinator and the new MC of Native Plants at Noon. So I've gone from fangirl to MC. So I'm pretty excited today. Thanks for joining us. Before we get started, I wanted to shout out a couple of thank yous. First to our other project coordinator and our producer, Jahida Aguilar. Jahida will be behind the scenes today, but you met her last month. And as always, thank you to our fearless leader, Sarah Beyer, for her wisdom and counsel in getting Native Plants at Noon so far along. We really appreciate you, Sarah. As many of you are aware, next week is the Planet Native Landscapes Conference. It's a virtual conference. It's 3 days long. So it'll be Wednesday afternoon, Thursday afternoon, and Friday morning. There are also a few field trip slots available on Tuesday, and that you could go to the Discovery Center on those. So those are filling up pretty quickly, but we wanted to remind you this conference is really just coming together so well. We have great speakers, incredible roundtables, super exhibitors. It's really, really exciting. And we'd love to have you join us. It's right in line with Native Plants at Noon and the folks that really love native plants. You'll also get a $10 off discount, and we'll tell you how to do that later on. Oh, one of the tours, one of the field trips on Tuesday is to the Discovery Center. So you could actually see Alex and Sydney. So today, if you have any questions, go ahead and use the Q&A tool on Zoom, or you can put your questions in Facebook. I will be putting the plants in the chat window as they come up. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we do that, I want to do a big shout out to the Missouri Department of Conservation. The Missouri Department of Conservation has been such a steadfast partner with us on this series. And we just love everything they do to encourage and empower people to plant more native plants. So with that, I want to welcome Sydney Ross and Alex Daniel, the stars of our show. They are at the Anita B. Gorman Discovery Center today. So Alex and Sydney, take it away.
Hello. We're so happy y'all could join us today. This is Alex.
And this is Sydney.
And we are the Native Landscape Specialists here at the Anita B. Gorman Conservation Discovery Center based in Kansas City. And today we're going to be talking about several amazing native pollinator plants that you can add to your garden. And we also will talk a little bit about the monarch migration a little later on. So to get us started, we're actually going to focus on one of my favorite plants. I think I say that about everything, but it's called closed bottle gentian. So we're going to go ahead and look at this specimen now. We hope you're all enjoying some slightly cooler weather, considering we're still in the heat of summer. But this fall bloomer, closed bottle gentian, also known as Gentiana andrewsii. Did I say that right, Alex?
Yes, you did.
Who knows? It's Latin. This is a really exciting plant that blooms towards the end of September and sometimes through October. It gets to be about 1 to 2 feet tall and does well in moist areas. So if you have a rain garden or edge of a pond that gets sun, full sun or part sun, this would be a great plant to consider. The reason I love this plant, I fell in love with it last year. Alex showed it to me for the first time here at the Discovery Center, but it is, as its name indicates, it has a closed flower, which I'm not going to force them open because they're still not.
No, do it.
Should I do it? Can I force it open?
Okay. Pretend like you're a bumblebee.
I'm a bumblebee. And I'm going to stick my bumble butt right here in the center. Now, bumblebees have co-evolved with this plant for thousands of years in order to pollinate this plant and receive its nectar. So you see a bumblebee is the strongest bee that can force its way in and get that delicious nectar and in turn pollinate this flower. It's kind of interesting. Alex and I were doing a little bit of research on it and realized that it doesn't have, according to ecologists, it doesn't have a lot of conservation oomph to it because this plant has so many great defense mechanisms. One, it's hard for insects to get into the flower, but also the roots are really bitter.
Which makes it deer resistant. So it's a good plant to have if you have deer pressure.
That's right. Garden. Rabbits as well. So it doesn't taste very good. It's really hard to get into it. Therefore making it kind of lower on the ecological spectrum. Oh, and also the birds don't eat the seeds because the seeds are so small. But it's gorgeous. And we don't have a whole lot of blue flowers in Missouri. But this is a great option. It again doesn't get too tall, maybe 2 feet at most, and it does well in kind of a wetter area. So people love it, bumblebees love it, and if you come to the Discovery Center in the next couple of weeks, come visit the butterfly garden. It's across from our prairie section, and you'll get to see the bumblebees in action, forcing their way through. It's really funny to see those little bumble butts sticking out. It's just an exciting plant. So if you're looking for some cooler colors in your bed, that's definitely one to consider. Now we're going to move on and talk about milkweeds, because September is the month of the milkweed. So we're going to cover 2 species today, though there are several other species that are native to Missouri.
I think there's something like 23 or 25 species of Asclepias.
And
native to
nationwide
Missouri.
or
that's Missouri.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that.
No, not wow.
Okay, so common milkweed, Asclepias syriaca, is this plant here. It's the tallest or the taller of the milkweeds in Missouri, and it finished blooming earlier this summer. I think the blooms start sometime like late May and in June, and the flowers are gorgeous. So imagine these big balls that are kind of rose colored. They're super fragrant. To me, they smell like clover, and they are a pollinator magnet. But as you all may know, milkweeds or Asclepias in general are really important for the monarch butterfly. And this is because milkweed is considered a host plant. Now, what that means is insects have co-evolved with certain plants for thousands of years, and they can only eat certain types of plants sometimes. Now, the monarch butterfly is a great example of this. So monarchs will come and lay their eggs, usually on the underside of your milkweed, and then the caterpillar will eat the milkweed up. So if your plants are eaten by the end of the year, you're doing a great job. And what's interesting about this relationship is milkweeds are toxic. The sap is toxic to most things. So deer resistant. And but monarch caterpillars can eat this, and as they eat this plant, they too become poisonous. So you'll see a lot of monarch butterfly mimics, so that the viceroy or viceroy, depends on how I don't know how to say it, but that
swallowtails are a more common one you see around here. That's a monarch
that
mimic.
look like a monarch, but that's because
and tussock moths.
Tussock moth. Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. So they all try to look like the monarch butterfly or caterpillar because everyone else knows that those are poisonous and they're not good to eat. So you'll see a lot of mimics here. So this is also known as the common milkweed. Again, it is a taller plant. So if you're thinking about landscape design, this isn't necessarily one I would recommend that you plant in the front part of your garden or in your front yard necessarily. If you're going for formal design, I like to put it towards the back of a bed. That way it's taller, and then plant shorter plants in front of it. And though the flowers have already bloomed, they do have these cool seed pods. So here is, you probably have all seen this. I don't know if you have childhood memories or adult memories of the seeds, but it spreads by wind. So the seeds, once they mature, the pods will split open. and spread. Now we're gonna have a bunch of milkweed.
Yay! This is a fun thing to keep kids busy.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yes.
During Monarch Mania.
Yes, it is.
When they get tired of trying to catch the butterflies.
That's right. If they're tired of chasing butterflies, it's a great alternative to it as well. One other thing I want to say about this plant is that it does spread pretty aggressively by rhizome, as well as by seed. So just keep that in mind as you're planning out your garden. It is a great plant. Again, it's not just important for monarchs. There's also other types there's the milkweed beetle that feeds on this plant. It's a little orange and black beetle. You've probably seen it if you've looked at milkweeds. And pollinators love the nectar of the flowers when they're in bloom. So now we're going to scoot over here to another kind of milkweed. This is my personal favorite, and I think a really great candidate for your garden, especially if you're looking for a more formal design. This is called the butterfly, it's called Monarch's Delight. So let me just say, it's also known as butterfly milkweed, but milkweed is a horrible name for plants. It doesn't promote their ecological value, and frankly, who wants to plant something that's called a weed? So we're changing the common name. We didn't come up with it, but Professor Doug Ptolemy, who created the Homegrown National Park and has some really great books on the importance of native landscaping in your own garden, kind of coined that term. So spread the word, Monarch's Delight. But the Latin name is Asclepias tuberosa. And this is a great milkweed plant because it's shorter in stature, gets to be about 2 feet tall. We planted this earlier this year, I think back in June, and it is still blooming. So this is a little unusual for this plant to be blooming this late, but we'll take it. We're pretty excited by it. Alex, do you remember what this beetle is called here?
That's the Solidago shield bug. Solidago something.
It's so goldenrod, but Solidago means goldenrod. So that's this insect. So you can see not only is it mating right now, but it's also getting nectar from these flowers. I love the striking color. This orange is just, it really stands out. It also requires full sun. All milkweeds typically need full sun and dry soil conditions. So that is something to keep in mind. And then,
there's a little metallic bee.
Yes. Yeah, check out all the pollinators it supports. No. Oh, our stabilizer fell. Oh.
Let's try this again.
Try it again. So you can see these, I think it's called umbels, or these little clusters, and then there's individual flowers here as well. So each flower has a great source of nectar. And then again, monarch caterpillars will eat the leaves. And we saw a ton of monarch caterpillars on these plants about a week or so ago. So I hope they've gone on to prosper and chrysalis and become a next generation of monarch butterflies. And something I like to think about though with native landscaping, when I'm researching one plant, I try to think about what else looks good with it. So here we've also planted Glade coneflower. Now it's not in bloom right now, but in the springtime, like in June, they bloom together and they are a stunning combination. We had some really great examples here in the prairie earlier this year, so I highly recommend that. And then I also recommend something called blue Brahma or Bouteloua gracilis. So we're going to take a peek at that real quick. I love this grass because it's a short ornamental grass.
It's flowering. Yeah.
Oh, it is flowering. Look at that.
Is that flower? Yeah, it is.
So
I can get close on that.
See if you can see that. It's another common name for this grass is eyelash grass. Can you see why? It looks like a bunch of little eyelashes, and you can see the flowers on it. By the way, grasses flower, which I didn't know for the longest time, but I think is just so exciting. If you look close at these different types of grasses, they have very unique flowering structures on them. So this again is a full sun, blue Brahma is a common name for it, or Bouteloua gracilis. It doesn't get very tall, so this is a great companion plant for the butterfly milkweed and other plants that you'll have in the front of your garden bed. And I think it's always nice when you're planning your garden design to think about different textures, think about grasses. I feel like that often gets overlooked. But there's some really great native grasses to Missouri that you can add to your landscape design, like this plant here. So that is what I'm going to be talking about today. Now I'm going to switch over, and Alex is going to tell us a little bit about Monarch Watch, this great organization.
Thank you, Sydney. Hello. So yeah, back to the milkweeds just for a little bit. We here at the Discovery Center, we had our Monarch Mania event last week, and we've had Monarch tagging events throughout last week and this week. And we are part of Monarch Watch, and you can find information on them through monarchwatch.org. And through that website, you can get signs like this that say Monarch Way Station. And that is really important for if you're doing, as we've seen this week, there's been some recent press about a Kansas City man who has a wildflower garden, and he's having to deal with the city wanting him to cut it and maintain it differently. And one of the most important things that you can do when you have an urban native planting is to provide this sort of interpretation and education for your neighbors, for your community, so they can see that on purpose you have this, tall, lovely, biodiverse yard. Yeah. But it's for a reason.
It's for a reason. It's intentional. It's not just because you're lazy, because I think that's a bad rep that a lot of native plant folk get. So yeah,
this is one of the ways, putting up signage in front of your native plantings. This is one kind of sign. Grow Native has a few different types. You can find them all over the internet, different styles and sizes for native plant garden.
Yeah.
So through Monarch Watch, we tag monarchs. So we catch them, and we it's a tiny little sticker that has the number that we write down some data about them, and then that way we're able to track them. So through Monarch Watch, they've been using citizen science to gather data on monarch migration.
Yeah, so if any of y'all were out here last weekend for our Monarch Mania event, where we gave away a ton of native plants, including the 2 milkweeds we discussed today, you may have also participated in monarch tagging, so that was kind of exciting. Okay, I'm gonna hop in this bed right here.
Sorry, I was gonna help you.
No, you're good.
Blindly.
No, I got this.
So first I'll show, these are, so we talked about milkweeds, which is the host plant for monarchs, and really quick, what a host plant is, just in case we didn't cover it before, is a plant that supports the larva of a type of insect. So only milkweed or monarch caterpillars can only feed on plants in the milkweed family. So or milkweed specifically, sleepy specifically. So, but the monarch adults need food throughout their migration route. So they need stops, and they need to fuel up and have places to rest and get some food while they're heading south for the winter. So this is one of their favorite flowers. This is Eastern Blazing Star. It's Liatris Aspera, and it's one of our middle blooming blazing stars. So this one, you can see it still has plenty of, catch that. I love the little curly,
they're so cute,
petals on those. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, they're really vibrant.
They're very vibrant. Even before they bloom, they're this wild, like deep, dark purple color as buds. They're just beautiful. And they gather a lot of monarchs. Today, we picked the wrong one. There's a huge bumblebee on the other one. But typically, if we weren't around this plant, it would be covered in pollinators. If you can see, we won't be able to catch it because it's going to fly away. But on this next Liatris, we're going to look at
skipper.
Yeah, you got it. It didn't go.
It's hanging out. That nectar's too good.
It's too good. Once it's 15 minutes anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're talking about Liatris, and Sydney was telling me that she got some advice from Mervyn Wallace of Wildflower Nursery to plant all the Liatris together. All three of the major Liatris, and this is the second one. This one is Button Blazing Star, or also called Rough Blazing Star. It's Liatris Aspera, and It is, oh, sorry, I went in my shadow. Yeah. It is the latest blooming blazing star. So in order, it goes prairie, eastern, and then rough.
Yeah. So that would be Liatris pycnostachya, Liatris scariosa, and then this one is Liatris aspera. And the reason we bring up the Latin names is not to sound arrogant. I suck at pronouncing Latin. That might be why Alex says it, but the reason is it's really important to know the Latin name to reference when you're purchasing your plants to make sure you're getting a true native.
Yeah.
So you don't need to know how to pronounce it, but just make sure you can know what it is so you can reference it at the store.
Yeah. So these are really important nectar sources for migrating and non-migrating pollinators alike. Just a gorgeous little flower.
It's beautiful.
Oh, this one's also the shortest one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So this one and it can handle a little bit drier conditions than the other blazing stars. Not that the other blazing stars can't handle dry, but it can even go bone drier than the other one.
And also just real quick, so we are standing in a new bed, Primrose Prairie, that I designed and that we planted together this year. So it is has a lot of prairie type plants or savanna plants. So just keep in mind they need a lot of sun if you're wanting to add it to your garden.
Did I say savanna though? Sorry, I might correct. The eastern blazing star is also called Savannah blazing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And it's found in savannas and glades in the southern part of the state. So not technically native to Jackson County, but we're gonna let it slide.
It's at least native to Missouri, and that's what counts here.
Our monarchs know exactly what they're getting.
That's right.
They know what they're in for. They love it. So the last plant what I meant to say though is that one, the Savannah blazing star, is the blazing star you want to get if you are sadly a full deep shade yard. Not sadly, you can still garden in a deep shade yard, but if you only have a little bit of tiny sunlight and you want a Liatris, give that one, because that one is going to be able to handle the most shade and it's going to be able to stand up by itself. So this last species we're going to talk about is blue sage, and this plant is very special. So we talk about how there's a very small percentage, like less than 1% left of the tallgrass prairies, of remnant tallgrass prairies. And this plant is found on all over right now, blooming all over the tallgrass prairies of Missouri and Kansas. We saw it out in Kansas.
We saw it in ditches. We saw it in remnant prairies. I mean, it's just a stunning plant. Again, not many blue plants, blue flowering.
Yeah, especially this shade of blue. It's like
it really
clear
is.
blue, I think is how Murph described it.
Yeah.
And this plant has a very special relationship with this one bee that spends its whole life revolved around this plant, and that is the blue sage bee. And the blue sage bee has been reported, researched on Jerry Smith Park, which is our only remnant prairie left in Jackson County. Oh yeah, there's Bumble on the blue sage now.
Then get it. Oh, it's too slow. Too slow. Bumblebee's like, get out of here.
We're just waiting for the blue sage bee to show up here.
Yeah, I was like, okay, you know what? There's a chance. I planted, I think, 12 in here.
Yes.
12 plants just in case.
As you can see, well, I mean, I don't know if this comes through, but Sydney designed it to have, grasses around these taller plants and to have these stouter plants hold each other up. Blue sage is a flopper. It is a flopper. It is one of
especially in the first year
that need to have. They have
support.
to have. I would argue it's always a flopper because in a place that I planted it before, it is growing on the ground. With more structure,
which is a great reason to add grasses to your designs.
And more grasses. If you have this problem, it's never too late. Add more grasses. That's what I'm going to do in the spot that I put it in. It just doesn't have enough structure to support. Some of our prairie plants can hold themselves up on their own pretty well, but this is not one of them.
Yeah. Beautiful. Here, look at, that's just another solidago. Never mind. I mean, they're cool, but we see them a lot. Okay, we're going to move to the shade because I think my phone's getting kind of hot, but then we would love to take some questions from the audience. Tammy, if you have any, feel free to fire them our way.
We do have some questions, ladies. The first one is from Reagan, And Regan Rye asks, you mentioned birds don't like gentian. What are some fall native plants that do support migratory birds?
Oh boy, we got a big list. Okay, so purple coneflower, obviously. Purple, any of the coneflower, any of the echinacea species are going to be top-notch #1 bird food. They support, obviously, finches, goldfinches specifically love echinacea seeds. Name one of your faves.
I mean, the Rudbeckias, what was interesting is earlier this summer, maybe a few weeks ago, or maybe it was a month ago, I don't know. I saw finches eating seeds from Monarda fistulosa, which is wild bergamot. It's in the mint family. Now that spreads pretty easily, but so does coneflower. So, just kind of just plan for it. But yeah, so I thought that was kind of an interesting flower that birds were eating seed from.
So yeah, some stuff. I mean, everything that's blooming right now, the big yellow composites, they're blooming this late. Therefore their seed is ripening later than everything else. So it's going to be more of a food source in the winter for the birds. So we're talking about everything we talked about in our last video, all the sunflowers, the goldenrods, the silphiums, the helianthus, when I'm talking about sunflowers, everything, then aster, I said all the asters, everything that's blooming, almost everything that's blooming right now, except for bottle gentian, is going to be a winter food source for birds.
Yeah, that's a great question though.
Yeah.
Now we have 2 people that have asked about the fencing around the.
Oh yes, our most popular question.
It is. I'm gonna flip it back over.
Yeah. Did you see this is flowering? Exciting.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah, this fencing is great. Alex, I can't actually remember where we got it. Was it Hummer?
Nope, it's called Gardener's Edge. The parent company is A.M. Leonard, but I think gardenersedge.com would probably get you there.
Yeah, we bought them online, and we bought 2 different heights so that we could kind of interlock them. And this is a really great way to add an edge or to, again, add that intentionality to your garden. So especially in your front yard, if your plants are looking a little, I don't want to say unruly, but this time of year, things tend to flop. Let's just be real.
Yeah, it's not a coincidence that people get sighted in the fall. It's just when the most plant material is around.
Right. So this would be a great way to show that you have intention in your garden, create a distinct edge with it. Great question.
We also use these to prop up floppy prairie plants that don't have friends yet.
Oh, look. Oh,
ooh, what is that?
That's a special bumblebee.
That's a special bumblebee.
Oh man. Did
you get it on video?
I did. We're gonna have to reference that later, Tammy. Sorry.
Yes.
There's something called Bumblebee Watch, where they record different bumblebee species. And I think that might have been a special one. Yeah. I think so. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. More questions while I follow this bumblebee. Squirrel.
Here's one from Ruth. Ruth asks, can you Chelsea chop the blue sage?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Ruth, thank you for bringing that up.
Great question. Alex just learned about this today. Tell us, Alex.
Oh, I can't believe I forgot that. What a great question. Okay. So according to Missouri Wildflower, you can Chelsea chop it. But you could also right now, like as the blooms are ending, apparently you can pinch it now, even when the seeds are still ripening, and you can get it to reflower in October. Which
That's
is
cool.
Are you gonna let me pinch your little baby plants?
Maybe one plant. Yeah, I thought I had read that it was by July pinch them back, but maybe I misread that.
It's both.
Is it both?
To get it to bloom shorter, to have the stem be shorter, Chelsea chop it. But to get it to rebloom at the height it's at now,
let's try it.
Then pinch it back when the flowers are.
That's one of the joys of working with native plants because they're so resilient and they push the boundaries. Try it. See what works.
That's mimicking a deer eating the top off, which is typically what we're mimicking when we do the Chelsea chop.
Yes. Oh, and I saw someone ask, what is the Chelsea chop? So we've talked about it in previous videos, but essentially it's cutting plants back, typically plants in the aster family. We cut it, how would you say, like down to a third of the size, like cut away 2/3 of the plant in around May or June, depending on the species.
By the end of June.
End of June. Okay. Okay. Father's Day was the marker.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We had something that we were saying with that, but cut it back and then it will stay shorter. This works great for plants like New England aster that gets super tall. Maybe it doesn't.
Ooh, yeah.
Willow leaf sunflower is another one, and then it'll grow back, but it'll be shorter and have more blooms. So it doesn't hurt the plant. Again, as Alex mentioned, it mimics deer pressure. Here's that bumblebee again. Do we have time for one more question?
I think we are out of time, but you answered a couple of questions with that last answer.
That's
So
great.
ladies, thank you so much. We so appreciate your time. And if we have, we really encourage you to go out to the Discovery Center and see these two beauties. They are so full of energy, and they just, oh my gosh, you're just perfect ambassadors.
Oh, thank you
the
so much.
Discovery
We
Center.
appreciate everything Deep Roots does, as well as the Department of Conservation. Obviously, we're biased, but thank you all for joining us.
Thank you. All right. And we'll wrap it up, ladies. Thank you again to Missouri Department of Conservation. They're just tremendous partners. As we close, we want you to remind you about the Planet Native Conference next week. You can save $10 with your registration by using the code NPN for Native Plants at Noon. We appreciate that you joined us this week, and I hope you enjoyed it. I sure did. Thank you for being so kind to me in the chat. I appreciate that. And if you've been following Native Plants at Noon, we really think you would like our conference next week. Again, it's virtual, so you can watch it from anywhere you like. If you missed any of our episodes, you can find them on deeproots.org right there. We had somebody, Toby said that he wasn't able to find our recordings. We'll check there, Toby, and make sure that August is there. We thought for sure it was, but hopefully we'll get that loaded if it's not. And while you're there at deeproots.org, we'd be so grateful if you would consider making a donation to Deep Roots to help us continue our work. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you back here on October 21st. Thanks.